Hello and welcome to Resident Evil Deep Dive, the series where for the month of October, I'm consuming as much Resident Evil content as I can every single day of the month. Today we're starting our game journey with Resident Evil 0 on the GameCube. Let's get started. Resident Evil is a franchise I've always known about, but never actually played any of the games. This series aims to change that, and I figured I'd go in numerical order, so here we are with 0. I had a really hard time getting used to this game. Survival horror isn't really my genre, so things like the tank controls and no easy save feature were all things I had to get used to. I did eventually sorta get a hang of it, but I'll go into more detail. For an introduction into the series, this game's opening is killer. I love the immediate suspense of the train scene and the introduction to those sucker monsters, followed immediately by this helicopter crash. Overall, the game was very cinematic, which I was happy to see considering I love watching horror more than playing horror, and to top it off, even though it's on the GameCube, the game's visuals have held up super well, even till today. Although I will say there were a number of important things that got lost in the environment, making some of the puzzles and important items easy to miss in the sea of browns and blacks. With that being said though, the environments and areas in this game were super thorough and full. There was always something to find or look at around every corner, making no hallway or area boring. The biggest hurdle I had to cross in this game were the controls. I'm used to platformers personally, so the concept of tank controls is something completely foreign to me. Especially trying to do tank controls with the analog stick, which the game encouraged, but honestly was so incredibly frustrating, I quickly switched to the D-pad on the controller instead. Which honestly made a lot of the movement better and far less frustrating. Tied into the controls was the frustrating fact that all of the interactable objects needed you to be directly in front of them in order for it to register, which made it so I'd just be tapping the directions ever so lightly to try and center myself enough that allowed me to interact with it. This became especially frustrating when there were multiple items next to each other and only wanted to interact with one of them, especially if that one happened to be in the middle. I get that this is a staple of the franchise, so don't come at me in the comments because I'm aware it's a skill problem. But the saving system in this, and I know many of the other games in this series, is the worst part of the game by far. The idea of losing all your progress in a multi-hour game because they didn't give you the item or you somehow missed one is super frustrating in my opinion. And I'm glad it's a concept that has mostly gone away in the more recent games in this series that I'm excited to get to. Something that I did really like though was the building of the Umbrella backstory and the overall story of this game. The concept of the two playable characters you can switch between at any time and give items back and forth to was a super interesting concept that I feel doesn't get used all that often in games of this capacity. With the partner mechanic in mind, I also really like the dynamic that Rebecca and Billy have throughout this series. It's helped along by the pretty solid voice casting. The audio overall is really good too, with the music, or lack thereof, doing a really good job setting the atmosphere throughout. Although I had a hard time getting adjusted into the genre and gameplay that I wasn't used to, I'm glad I did, so that I could experience something new. I'm excited to see what the rest of this franchise has in store for the rest of this month, and I'm even more excited to break into something a little outside my comfort zone. What do you think of Resident Evil 0? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe while you're down there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.